Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who appeared to us in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom praise is forever due. I further bear witness that Allah rose the exalted Christ, the Mahdi, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and it is in his name, in the name of our brother, his servant, the honorable minister of Farrakhan, that I greet all who are watching with the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. Oh, and those who are listening, because I'm recording on the Anchor app. So about that Anchor app, if you haven't been listening on the Anchor app, and those who are on the Anchor app, I know you have, praise be to Allah, go ahead and share with someone, because you can't always look on the YouTube, so you can enjoy this beautiful show that Allah has blessed me to do on the Anchor app as you do your cleaning, as you do your driving, or whatever it is that you're doing. So yes, welcome back to another episode of Maryam Alima. What do you know about Islam? And we are continuing on with our reading of How to Eat to Live. I always preface these episodes with trying to ask forgiveness about me being so lax. But you know what? Y'all know. I think I already did that in the last video. So we're just going to pick back up on our reading. We are starting with page 67 because we ended on 66. And we'll just get right on into it. All right, so we are in book 1, How to Eat to Live, page 67, feeding babies. Mothers should feed their babies from their breast milk if they possibly can, as this is the best. When you are able to start feeding them on solid food, give them weak bean soup, not the highly seasoned strong soup that you eat. You also can start them out with orange juice and mashed apples. This is done whenever you think the baby is able. After he is about 3 months old, this depends on the health of the baby and its age. Plenty of good milk and good, thoroughly cooked bread are good for you and the baby. We must not get the idea that we can nurse the baby with everything we eat. This is what will start sickness and disease in the family. Some mothers are very careless. The baby can act as if he wants what mother is eating, and even if it is a beef steak, she will cut him a piece. We create sickness right in our homes, from the cradle to the grave. Orthodox Jewish food. A Muslim, according to the Holy Quran, should not fear to eat food that the Jews eat, and the Jews do not fear eating a Muslim's food because they both eat the same type of foods. Orthodox Muslims are very careful of what they eat. The only food we shun that they love are nuts. The Muslims are warned against eating nuts of any kind, and they are warned against drinking the blood of animals and fowls, because blood is the fluid of life. Therefore, no human being should eat or drink the blood of anything. The Jews are warned against this by the teachings of Moses, the servant of Allah. Meat, part 1. It is useless to keep repeating to you the same truth day and night, month after month, and year after year when you have it written in your book, the Bible. The main meat that our people like to eat is what they have been taught not to eat, the cheap and filthily raised hog. This is a divinely prohibited flesh. This truth has been before our eyes ever since we have had permission from the white man to read the Bible. Nothing good is said about it in the Bible in Leviticus. The priests of Israel were warned not only against the eating of this prohibited poisonous flesh, but they should not even touch its carcass. But now, the Christians who claim they are better than all the religious people of the earth, not only touch the carcass, but eat the carcass, and they advise you and others to do the same. Then, they say they are followers of Jesus, the Son of God, while he himself was against the eating and touching of this hog. You can read a parable concerning this filthy swine. Jesus found a man possessed of evil spirits, and wanting to relieve the man of such evil spirits, he sent the evil spirits, devils, out of the man into the swine. The preachers, representatives of the Son of God, and the priests know this to be true, but they preach that it is all right now to eat swine, and still say they are beloved of Jesus. How could they be when they broke the laws of God by eating the swine? Nowhere in the scriptures does it bid us to break the law that God set up for this prohibited flesh. The Christians laugh at my followers and for me for not eating this filthy animal, as though they have an option from God and Jesus to eat it. It is the filthiest, ugliest, and silliest animal in whom nature did not put any shyness. Those who love to relish his flesh have very little shyness, as you can see today in the Christian Americans who love to go half nude and say that they are all right with God. They say this with a stomach full of divinely prohibited flesh, intoxicating drinks, and now on top of that, dope or drugs. Should America boast that she is a people following Christ or Jesus? Americans are making a mockery of God and his prophet Jesus. They hate his law of righteousness, health, and decency. The hog is a grafted animal, so says Allah to me, grafted from rat, cat, and dog. Don't question me. This is what Allah has said. Believe it or let it alone. You have witnessed that the rat is involved in the grafting of this hog in Isaiah 66:17. They that sanctify themselves, self-claiming righteous of Christians, and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith the Lord. He will kill them. He doesn't want them willfully and knowingly eating such flesh, which is filled with poison in the shape of worms, the trichinae or porkworm, which gradually destroy humans as termites destroy the timber. This filthy, evil worm can stand a temperature higher than any known flesh worm. He can't be seen with the naked eye. You have to get the microscope, put a little piece of his flesh in the fat part, or just grease a glass slide of the microscope with his flesh. Take a look, and you will see him crawling around. These worms begin in the stomach, weaving themselves to breed their families in the walls of the stomach. From there into the walls of the intestines, from there into our muscles, and from there into the spine and brains where no medicine can reach them and the victim dies with the disease that they produce with their presence. White Christians represent pork as being good for you to eat. This is enough to teach you that they never wanted to obey the divine law, nor do they want Black people to do so. It is one of the most commercialized meats in America and wherever they can sell it. Know the truth about the flesh of the swine. In an earlier chapter of this book, I told you how Allah taught me about the birth of the swine and that this animal was made only for the whites. Because theirs is a grafted race, they were made weaker physically through the man from whom they came, the Black man. Since the body of the grafted is weaker than the original man or the original body, it would be easier for them to attract germs than the original man. You should not argue with me about this because all of the diseases that trouble us today, from social diseases to cancer, came from the white race, one way or the other. Do not tell me about 400 or 500 years or 1,000 years. I am referring to this people's entire historical scope. They have had 6,000 years to mix with and poison our people. Some of you are foolish enough to accept all the blame, but God clears you of it. This refers to those who love the devil so much that they would like to dispute God about them. I am only teaching you the truth. Take it or leave it. They are too wise to dispute the truth. Read the story in the Bible in which Jesus met a man who was possessed of evil spirits. When the evil spirits recognized Jesus to be from God, knowing they would have no chance to contend with him over their presence in the man where they did not belong, they pleaded with Jesus to let them go into the swine, and Jesus agreed. The man who was possessed of evil spirits was none other than the American so-called Negro. The evil spirits in him are from the white race, who made him eat the divinely prohibited flesh of the swine. The devils were allowed to go into the swine. They ran down a steep place into a lake or sea and perished. here the picture changes. The meaning changes a bit. The hog was made for the right race for medical purposes, not for them to eat, but they could eat it if they wanted to, since they were created to be destroyed. They used the hog in much of their medical preparation, even in the German 606 poisonous germs. Allah taught me that one of these germs came from the swine. However, the white man will advise you to eat it. He would have you think the swine is cleaner now than he was in Jesus' time. But wouldn't God know that he was in Jesus' time? But wouldn't God know 4,000 years from Moses if this swine would be clear of poison? You admit God is a forsaker, is a foreknower. The whole story was twisted around. They want you to think God did not know about this process of the devils leaving the man and entering the swine until after it happened. Actually, God knew it was going to happen before it took place. Using deceit, they have succeeded in getting you to eat the swine as food, though it was made to produce a poisonous germ for medical purposes in curing diseases of the white race. This is how he makes you break all of the commandments of God, because he is God's enemy and yours and mine. He has you break the divine law. We did this because we saw him doing it, and at that time had no teacher of our own. These are the tricks of your hidden enemies and their own concocted religion called Christianity, which is deceiving and leading you to your doom with them. I am your brother, and Allah has revealed to me the truth for your salvation. Jesus also prophesied that the truth will set you free. That is, if you accept the truth. The thing you must understand in this parable of Jesus is that actually the visible swine could not have gone crazy and choked in the sea or lake because the spirit of the devil was sent in them. The true meaning that you should understand is the swine that was choked to death in the sea after the spirit of the devil was taken out of the man represents the believers among the so-called American Negroes. And the swine that ran into the lake and perished represents the disbelievers among the so-called American Negroes who refuse to accept the truth. They are so obsessed with the evil doings of the devils, they will not accept their own salvation and will be choked into hellfire with the devils. As you have in the Bible, Lucifer's, Yaqub, fall also represents the fall of his race. The lake or sea in which they choked and perished, in the same lake mentioned in Revelations of John, that all that had the mark of the beast, the representatives of the beast, and the false prophets, priests and preachers of Christianity, referred to as being cast alive in the lake of fire. I hope you understand. What I am trying to get over is that you who reject Allah and his true religion, entire submission to his will, as the Arabs call it, Islam, will perish in the lake of fire with this race of adversaries of Allah and his true religion to which they refuse to submit. They now are trying to woo you into sharing hellfire with them, though they know that you have a chance to go into heaven while they do not. I cannot force you to halt your downhill plunge with them into the lake of fire. I have been missioned only to warn you in the simplest language. I cannot force you to go to hell or heaven. Your sweethearting and wanting to marry them is like a frog trying to court a rattlesnake. The rattlesnake gives the frog freedom to do so because he intends to swallow the frog. Taking the death-dealing pill and the knife to destroy your future generations are examples. Socializing with them is no sign of justice, but a sign that they have deceived you into going to hell with them. Take it or leave it. Live 1,000 years. In the past, our appetite was our God. We ate as many times a day as we could find an appetite to. We worshipped our appetite as though it was our God. This shortens our lives. Some of us have never gone a day without eating, unless we were sick and the doctor stopped us until his drugs could aid in killing the germ that eating 3 or 4 meals a day had caused. We think we cannot miss a meal unless we are unable to buy the next meal. So we wear out our stomachs that could possibly live 1,000 years, if cared for and protected from the enemies that will shorten and destroy our lives. We can soon get accustomed to eating once a day and nothing between meals. After getting used to eating once a day, we can get used to eating once every 2 days. Our stomachs will not ask us for food, except at the time that we make a habit of putting food in them. Surely 1 meal a day and eating the right kind of food at the meal will do away with much sickness and add many years to our lives. Try it for yourself. Do not eat everything you see the Christians eat. That is why they have so many hospitals and must produce so many doctors every year. Eat to live and not to die. Because how you eat does both. It keeps you here and it takes you away. Do not fill up your stomach with sweets. Keep away from greasy foods. Allah God has brought us this knowledge in the person of Master Muhammad. Believe in him and obey and follow his teachings, and you will always be happy. All praises to Allah. Train yourself to eat as Allah has advised. To keep healthy and strong and live a long time on this old earth, Allah said to me in the person of Master Muhammad, eat 1 meal every 2 or 3 days. Do not be frightened, brothers and sisters, that with your meal hours being lengthened, you may die or become too hungry. You will live and you will not be hungry. After you have gotten your stomach used to the long intervals between meals, your stomach will take food only when you give it food. And it won't ask you for any food until that certain hour to which you have accustomed it to being fed. I used to think like you before the coming of our God and Savior in the person of Master Muhammad, to whom praise is forever due, to whom praise is due forever. I began practicing eating 1 meal every day with no food in between. I got used to that within a couple of weeks. And after a certain length of time, I tried eating once every 2 days with nothing between but coffee. I did not try to pour all of the cream and sugar out of the cream and sugar gowls into the coffee. I sweetened and creamed it as I had done when I was eating 3 meals a day, because we can live on cream and sugar for a long time. But it is not good to do this through our coffee for our health's sake. I felt better eating 1 meal every 2 days or 48 hours with nothing between. I also tried eating 1 meal every 72 hours, as he had told me that if I ate 1 meal every 3 days, I would never be sick. And I thought, I would try it before teaching it. So I did for a few months, and I felt better than I felt when I was eating 1 meal every 48 hours. And I can bear witness that I did not have the symptoms of illness at any time. My whole body felt light and my head was clear. I could almost hear insects crawling. It is not so much what we eat when you begin eating 1 meal every day or every 2 days or 3 days. It is just that you do not eat foods that are against your health. I have described in this book time and again that which he pointed out to me. But most poor people like us eat the inexpensive food because we do not have the money to buy expensive foods that rich millionaires eat. So he prescribed for us dry navy beans and bread and milk. Ooh, all praise due to Allah. There are so many people asking about eating sardines. They are for us to eat only if we are traveling and cannot get other foods. But please do not buy them unless they are fresh when you can clean them, and not those that are packed already. There are some packed that are clean, but they are a little expensive. They are called Portuguese sardines. There are other herbs that we can eat that are not mentioned here in this book, but please, whenever you decide on eating something that is not mentioned in this book, write me, because there are some on the market that are not good for you and me. I'm going to take a break for a second. Because I want to talk about Wait, what are you saying? Sorry. Oh, yes. When he said that Allah prescribed for us the dry navy beans, bread, and milk. Now, I don't drink milk. I have an aversion to it, you know, when it curdles and then you see that curdling. This one time I ate cereal, and at the end of the cereal, you know, I started to get the milk, you know, scooping it with the spoon. And then there was a whole ring around, and I was just like, you know what? No thanks, milk. But I definitely use milk and half all the time because I'm always baking and I use it in my bean soup. So I'm always using it. And inshallah, I've mentioned before about the Kalana milk, and I use Chobani half and half. I use them because the Chobani creamer that I use for my coffee it has on there cream. What does it say? It says cream, sugar, and natural flavorings, because I could like the vanilla or the sweet cream. It has 3 things on it. Other ones have like 9 to 10 to 15 to 1,000 things on it. It's like, well, that's not cream. That's not creamer. That's death. But anyway, back to what I was saying about him mentioning the navy bean and wheat bread, because it's inexpensive to have. The thing about it is, not only is it inexpensive, it's delicious. Fresh baked bread. OMG, does not, I mean, I don't buy any bread. I don't buy bread. I make my sandwich bread. I make my baguettes. I make my hamburger buns because, you know, I don't know, but I'm telling you, I make veggie burgers out of eggplant, navy beans, sometimes black beans, and everything, beets and whatnot. So for my veggie burgers, you know, you got to have a delicious bun. So I make my hamburger buns. I make my tortillas. I don't buy bread, needless to say, right? And OMG, the things you can do with the navy bean, like the fact that it's just still so good and it's inexpensive. And we're moving in, and oh gosh, we're moving further into the dark hour that these things are dry. Flour is something that you can stock up on and it's not going to spoil. Beans, stock up on them. They're not going to spoil. As long as you have a good reserve of water, inshallah, you can cook your beans and you can make your bread. One of my favorite breads to bake is flour, salt, water, and yeast. And if you don't have yeast, learn to make sourdough bread. And what you would do is you take, I believe it's a 1-to-1 ratio of flour and water. You mix that in a glass jar. Don't tighten your lid on it, just set it on top and leave it. You're going to have to feed. Now there's me and sourdough are, you know, we're figuring it out, but I'm going to have to master it in order to propagate it properly. But regardless of anything about whether you have a great spring on your bread from using sourdough, the thing is you can literally do that. Mix your flour and water, set it aside for a period of time. Make sure it's not really going to spoil, because that's literally how you make, well, not going to spoil. It's going to sour, because that's why it's called sourdough. You're souring your dough. And he mentions that in this book. Allow your dough to fermentate, and then get some more fresh flour, mix it in, make your dough and bake that. The flavor is so rich. And I mean, I'm saying all that because if you don't have yeast, because yeast will expire at a certain, after about 6 to 8 months. Actually, I think it's about like 6 to 9 months is usually how long yeast lasts in the little jars. So yeah. So if you are watching this by Allah's grace, and you're someone like, man, I'm down to eat, 1 meal a day, but I want to eat like the best food. So like, these groceries are getting high. Like, gas already is $4.95. So if gas is that high, the food is getting higher. The prices of food is getting higher. But guess what? Navy beans, a 16-ounce bag is still like $1.67. One 16-ounce bag. I had wrote down the ratio a while ago. But okay, one 16-ounce bag can get you maybe like 3 to 4 meals. $1.67 can get you 3 to 4 meals. I mean, all right, you are now to live your life for you. Okay, so the navy bean, whole wheat bread, and you're gonna live. Eat 1 meal a day to the 48 hours. I strive to. What I'm starting now is I was doing the 48-hour. I think I mentioned this before, or I attempted it. I wasn't doing it. I attempted it like for 4 days, and I'm a smaller frame gal, so, and I like to eat because I consider myself a professional home cook. I like food. I do. I like food. I'm eating my 1 meal a day. So rather than 48 hours, I'm striving to just fast once a week. You know, we do our unity fast within the Nation of Islam at the beginning of each month, and that's a 3-day fast. Even with that, I still do. He says you can do 48 to 72. I'm a 48-hour kind of gal. So at the beginning of the month, we'll have our 48-hour, or Maryam will have her 48-hour fast. And then every week I'm striving to just fast on 1 day out of the week. It's because, better health. Just want to live longer. Not even just live longer, but live with more vitality. Like, oh, you wake up and you go, oh yes, Faja. And you're just gonna have a much better life. We're actually gonna cease our reading for today. We ended on page 78, and inshallah, I'll be seeing you all, or speaking to you all very soon, and we can continue on reading this beautiful book given to us from Allah in the person of Master Farad Muhammad by way of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the risen and exalted Christ. And I pray that this gave you some inspiration, clarity on some things. And if it did benefit you, you can share it with somebody else, right? Yeah. So until next time, I leave you as I came before you in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum, which is peace be unto you. And yeah, peace, love, and light.